Waterfall, the CCW podcast.
Hello and welcome to Waterfall. It's the water saving podcast brought to you by CCW, that's the Consumer Council for Water. This is Series 5, Episode 8. I mean, quite unbelievably, I don't know how we got there. And today we've got a really, really exciting topic. It's the everything shower. Now, that is a trend that's emerged over the last few years. So it's become very popular with Gen Z. We're going to be looking at the everything shower and what it means in terms of water use, sustainability, and self-care. Now, if you're listening to this and don't know what I'm talking about, then please stay listening because we'll be unpacking what the everything shower is. And I've only known what it is for about 6 months. Now, I'm joined by two fantastic guests on this episode of Waterfall. First, it's Bibhuti and Ruth, who is an expert in social media at CCW. And she played a key role in developing CCW's Gen Z campaign. I'm going to keep alternating Gen Z and Gen Z. I mean, you know, who knows where I'll go with this. And we find out a bit more about that later. She also brings first-hand experience of being a member of Gen Z, just like me. Oh no, and I'm getting my X's and my Z's mixed up. But Bibhuti is really passionate about using digital platforms to engage with young people in water-saving behaviours. And she's really helped CCW's approach to reaching new audiences. But we've not just got one fab guest, we've got two, and we're doubling down because we've got Ruth Williams, who is a journalist at Utility Week, and it's a pleasure to welcome Ruth. Ruth specialises in reporting on consumer issues and the environment in the utilities sector. Ruth brings with her a wealth of experience in looking at trends and behaviours in the water sector and trying to make sense of what that means. So her insights are going to help us understand how the industry and the media can respond to changing habits and changing expectations. So together, Bibhuti and Ruth will discuss everything showers, and in particular, are there generational differences between our water use and how campaigns can be used to help bring things to mind so that we will perhaps make some adjustments to our behaviours. Now, yeah, that's enough from me. So let's bring on the guests. First of all, Ruth, hello, welcome to Waterfall.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Ruth, can you describe what the everything shower trend is and why you think it's caught on with Gen Z?
So I think you have to picture the scene. It has been a long, stressful week. And when you've got the time, you just want to completely unwind and pamper yourself. And if going to a spa seems appealing, but out of your price range, then why not make a home spa? So the everything shower emerged a couple of years ago on TikTok. And has become quite a trend, and it's on Snapchat, and you can see it across the different platforms. And the idea is you give yourself time, you give yourself up to, it's also dubbed the 2-hour shower, so up to a couple of hours in the shower, and you're not just washing and going, you are going to wash your hair, and that's going to involve putting on a hair mask and conditioner, a leave-in treatment, making your hair absolutely luscious and glorious. You're going to scrub every inch of your body, shave every inch of your body, put on face packs, put on serums, put on some lovely music and candles. This is a true indulgence. It's a way to just give yourself like some time. Of course, that's with a shower running, and that can be very, very intensive on water consumption.
Wow, I mean, that sounds horrific. A 2-hour shower. Surely people come out incredibly wrinkly after that. I mean, that seems counterproductive to me.
Not if you've put your lotions and potions on.
Lotions and potions, and
lotions and potions, but you would definitely have wrinkly fingers after 2 hours in the shower.
I don't think if you had to hold my showers in a month, they come to 2 hours. Anyway, but why do you think it's caught on then?
I think, like Ruth mentioned, it's like as it's become like a kind of self-care ritual, and like for I think Gen Z also, it's like a proper me time where you're getting to do your skincare, your hair care, listen to some music. And also I think social media has driven it And I think especially on TikTok and Instagram, where influencers are getting to share videos like "Get ready with me," I think it makes it more relatable. Uh, and I think at the end of the day, it's something that's relaxing and enjoyable, and I think that's why people love it.
This is something people talk to each other about. So when people are out, they go, "Oh, what did you do in your everything shower?" Is that a thing?
I think even if people aren't talking about it face to face, there's a lot of chat online about it. There's a lot of, am I doing this right? What order should I be doing this in? Am I missing things out? And a lot of talk about, the products that different people use, comparing one hair mask with another, one soap product or body scrub with another. So even if people aren't talking about it in real life, they're definitely talking about it online.
I saw an advert from a beauty company just yesterday, actually, that said everything you need for your everything shower. And I was like, it's just coincidental. I saw it knowing we were going to be recording this today. And I was like, wow, people are using this in their marketing. I was really shocked. So people are really going for it and talking about it. What do you think it means then in terms of attitudes towards sustainability and towards self-care among Gen Z?
I think among Gen Z, we really value self-care and mental health routines as well. But I think there's a bit of a tension when we're looking after between looking after yourself and looking after the environment as well. And I think it shows a bit of a challenge where Gen Z want sustainable lifestyle, but they don't always connect that with the water usage as well. And I think, for example, a 20-minute shower with a multi-step skincare or shower routine can feel like a treat or a relaxing break, but I think it also uses a lot of water. So yeah.
Do you think other people other age groups will start catching on to this too? I mean, is it going to spread beyond Gen Z? Have a feeling for that?
I've no idea, but maybe until the millennials.
Speaking as an aged person, I think I am classed as a millennial. I was horrified when I heard of this. I couldn't imagine spending that much time in the bathroom. I'd put a face pack on, sure, but I'd do that when I'm sitting watching telly. I wouldn't do it in the shower. Yeah, I can't see it cottoning on for other generations, but if it's become so popular with Gen Zs, then there's nothing to suggest that other people wouldn't be tempted and enjoy indulging in it as well.
Right, you're both saying Gen Z, so I'm going to stick with Gen Z from now on. We did some research a few years ago on it was called Lifting the Lid, and it was basically people's water habits. And a big chunk of people in that survey pretended that they were having a shower to get away from family or flatmates, which I think it sounds like a more millennial type response than a Gen Z response, but Gen Z are actually in the shower, whereas millennials are pretending to be in the shower just to get a break from their flatmates or their children. So that, I mean, I found that is quite interesting. So, Bibhuti, you've touched on this, that there seems to be a disconnect between sustainable habits and then obviously wanting to indulge in a regime that involves lots of water and long showers. What could we do to try and bridge that gap?
I think like change would work best when it's linked with what people actually care about, like maybe doing small swaps that can make a big difference, like doing hair mask and skincare outside the shower. And also, I think the key learning would be, I think sustainability needs to be felt as something that's achievable, not restrictive. So I think if it feels restrictive, then I think people wouldn't want to stick to the habit. So
I mean, that's one of our kind of recurring themes on Waterfall, that actually saving water isn't difficult. It's not a chore. So I think you've kind of hit on that. How do you get the same experience, but without necessarily using all that water? Ruth, from what you've seen then, do you think that it's media and journalists that are to blame then for the 2-hour shower? Is it all your fault?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's Utility Week's fault. I don't think Utility Week really indulges in TikTok trends. But it's being promoted, it's being talked about. What I've seen in the media about the 2-hour shower or the everything shower is more like, what is this phenomena? What is this trend? We hear about it, but we don't know about it. So I think traditional media are, even on, and when I say traditional, I mean online, not just newspapers. But I think traditional media are more trying to catch up with TikTok and with Instagram and the things that we're seeing shared on those platforms, because this was around for a couple of years before articles started to be written about it, and journalists started to be asking questions about what is it, what does it involve, why is it so popular, and how can we do our own, and wanting to be a part of that conversation that's going on online.
That's interesting that you talk about catching up, because that's certainly kind of how it feels like, and it's quite disconcerting that like at least 2 of my kids talk about the everything shower, and they talk about it as though it's always been a thing. I'm like, well, what do you mean? And they were telling me what they do in their shower, their order of things. And I was, of course, mortified. And they said, don't worry, Dad, don't worry. I stop for 5 minutes in the middle. I don't apply something or peel something off, or I don't know. I genuinely have no clue. They told me not to say this on the podcast, but tough luck. But they do talk about it as though it's just a thing. It's a commonplace, everyday thing. It's not an unusual thing. The way they talk about it is something that's been around for ages. And so when you said catch up, that really resonated, because it does feel like we are catching up. And
absolutely. And I think that's something that the water industry needs to, kind of be really, really mindful of, is the power of these social medias that, oh God, I was about to say the kids are on these days, but that Gen Z are, sort of using, not just as, sharing dance routines that maybe they started off being known for, but now it's a place where people get their news. It's where people connect with one another all over the world, and the water companies are being talked about on these platforms, whether they're there themselves or not. As part of that conversation, they're being talked about by their customers or their future customers, and the things like the everything shower are up there. But I looked through a lot of the comments on these. I didn't want to see someone saying, what's this doing to your water consumption, or how much water are you using in a week if you're doing this every day or every few days, or what's this doing to your bills? That doesn't seem to be considered at all.
Well, let's ask a Gen Z. Bibhuti, when you're in your shower, I'm sure I want to know what you think about in the shower, but do you ever think about the environmental or financial impacts of long showers, of the everything shower?
I definitely think about it, because back in my country where I'm from, in Nepal, we've always had this water shortages, and sometimes water only came once a few hours, and then the problem, it later got solved, but living through it and having experienced all that, I think it's made me value water a lot more. And now even here, I think twice before wasting it, because long showers might feel nice, but it also means higher bills and also more pressure on the resources as well. So that's why I try to time my showers by listening to songs. So I tried timing my shower to one song, but I think that was me being too ambitious. But then I think 3 or 4 songs, or listening to a short podcast, I think that's more achievable and more realistic as well. So that's how I try to time my showers. And
wow, that still seems pretty long to me. Wow. It's interesting what you say about the cultural aspect there, because what you've just said really resonated with what was said in the episode we did about Colombia, where they had a impending water shortage coming because of a collapse of an aqueduct, and everyone in Bogota basically knew the clock was ticking until when they ran out of water. It was a really good episode to listen to, but there's been a legacy there of people saving water, even though that that crisis happened 30 years ago. So it's interesting you're picking up on that. And I suppose we in the UK are very lucky that we've not had that kind of water shortages, where you actually have literally nothing coming through, or potentially having nothing coming through. We were just touching on costs, and I was doing some calculations before the show, and including the energy and water costs of having a 2-hour shower. It was, and this was using a kind of moderate shower of 6 liters a minute. You would use 720 liters, and that would cost you, for energy and water, if you did that every day, would cost you £3,200. It's just incredible.
That is terrifying.
It is. I mean, what do you make of that? I mean, I know people don't have an everything shower every day, but still.
I mean, it's and that, as you say, that's with a conservative flow on the shower head. I did some maths using an average power shower, and I also was a lot less conservative on the time, because I went with 2-hour shower. I timed it for 2 hours. It could use up to 1,800 liters of water, which, prepare for some Ruth maths, which are always a bit dubious, but if you
are maths, you're a journalist.
I've also got dyscalculia, so bear with me. If you multiply that by the 13.2 million Gen Zers in the UK, that would be, if each of them took a 2-hour shower a week, that would be 23,760,000,000 litres of water. If everyone in Gen Z took a 2-hour shower using a power shower head in a week, which that's about a tenth of the capacity of the UK's biggest reservoir.
So say that number again. How many billions?
23,760,000,000, which I had to write out in words because I knew I wouldn't be able to say it.
And that's if everyone has it once a week.
If all of the 13.2 million Gen Z people in the UK took a 2-hour shower using a more powerful shower than the one you calculated on, but I don't know what that would come to as the cost. I did a rough calculation that it would be between £5 and £9 for the water alone per shower, per person. I mean,
wow.
I mean, that's, that is hefty. That is a hefty amount, but that is a lot cheaper than going to a spa. So if someone was doing this because they wanted to indulge and they wanted some, me time, some mental health time, kind of, to treat themselves to something, £5 to £9, maybe the cost of that wouldn't be enough to deter someone.
And that was just the cost of water, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
So obviously there would be the heating of the water on top of that, which would probably be more.
Yes. That's really interesting, though. Yes, the energy cost is like the same again twice.
Oh wow! Okay.
So your 5 to 9, I mean, roughly would be,
15 to £27.
Yeah. So that's wow. But it's still, I think your point is the same compared to if you were going to go to a spa and get some treatments. Yeah, that can easily get well over £100 if you're going to go and have your pampered day. Yeah, no, I said, wow, those figures are just eye-watering. I mean, that's 23 billion. So that's, obviously that's spread over a week, but even just working what that would work out as per day, just by dividing that by 7, it's still a massive number.
Oh, it's terrifying. And you think of the water shortages and the deficit that we're staring down into the face of by the middle of this century. That's it.
Yeah, the deficit's 4 to 5 billion litres a day.
Yeah,
that we're short of. So you could just cut out these and then you sort it.
Sort the deficit, yeah.
Yeah, we are nice and easy.
Look at whether water resource managers at water companies have accounted for the everything shower in their water resource planning.
Well, and that's a really important point. And whilst getting into technicalities that water resource planning is probably something that's best avoided from most human beings, there is a key point there about that actually we touched on earlier, that are we keeping up with trends? And if you are trying to predict usage in the future and you're not keeping up with the trends, then your sums are going to be all wrong. So I think that's quite a important point actually for people to realize that, we've got to understand how people use water if we're going to have any hope in helping people use less. But Bibhuti, is one of the issues with Gen Z that many Gen Zers aren't the bill payer. So they don't really care about this stuff we've just been talking about.
Gen Z we're just those generation who are like worried about the sustainability and stuff like that, and we're not linking water to it. But I think it doesn't fall under the radar of saving water to us as Gen Zs, because we only think of the environment and the forest and stuff like that, but then we don't actually think about water as it becoming the most important part of it. So it might be because of that, but I think once you're going to uni and stuff like that, then you start to pay your own bills and stuff like that. You start realizing it.
I think it's fascinating the connection or the lack of connection between, and this isn't. I'm not sort of lumbering this on Gen Zs. I think this is true for so many people. The disconnection between the water in the environment that people want to protect and preserve and enjoy and see as part of nature, and the water that comes out of our taps at home, that there seems to be a real disconnect between people seeing them as the same thing, which mystifies me.
What can we do to help make that connection? Because I think you're spot on. There is a disconnect, and people don't like being preached to or lectured at. So how to bridge that gap in a way that actually has some traction and is a real challenge?
I think that there's going to be a water efficiency campaign at a national level coming up, which will be exciting to see. But I think there's a real opportunity to talk to people in the way that they're getting their information, the way that people are getting their news. So if people are getting their news and their info from Instagram, if people are getting their information from TikTok, this needs to be where these conversations are being had. You can't put it on the back of, a pamphlet through the door or on the back of a bill or something telling you how to use water, but actually, engaging people where they're seeing it, and get that environmental message across really strongly, because it's amazing the sort of campaigning that you see being done and the passion that people have for the environment, but just need to link up the environment and your tap or your toilet or whatever it is at home as one and the same.
So is one of the issues that the people who are designing campaigns are possibly Gen Xers or millennials who don't necessarily understand what is going to have traction with Gen Z? Oh, that's really interesting. I've seen packages being sold to students who are moving into accommodation that have bundled energy, water and broadband all together, and they charge a flat rate and you can use whatever you want. So basically unlimited water as part of that package. Yeah, Ruth, have you seen that? And how responsible do you think this kind of charging is from a kind of carbon and water perspective?
I mean, that seems incredibly short-sighted. It reinforces the message that water is not important as a resource. If you can use however much and not be charged for it, what kind of incentive is there to use less water? Out of interest, did it say the same for energy? Could you use unlimited energy for a fixed rate fee?
Yeah, I'll double check that, but I think it did. It was basically you pay this price and then fill your boots. In fact, I think that's probably what it even said on its marketing. And there's not just one doing this, there's a number of them doing this. I mean, it does bring up a bigger question that we can't really get into now, but have we got our charging structures all wrong if this type of approach is even viable? Because obviously the people selling that must be making some money, because they wouldn't do it. I mean, why would they do it otherwise? It just does bring up the question about, given our resource constrained world, is this just are we doing it the wrong way?
I think we're doing it the wrong way. I think there's been, people saying for as long as I've been in the role I'm in, which is a few years, reporting on the water sector, people have said water's too cheap. However, that's really hard for customers to hear, particularly those customers who've seen their bills go up from April this year and they've been told they're going to keep going up for the next few years. So to be told, oh, the cost of water is too cheap, we don't value water, that will be really difficult to sort of hear as a message. And I don't know how water companies can put that message across in a way that encourages lower consumption, but doesn't upset their customers who may already be struggling with affordability. But certainly we would need to look at, some sort of charging if 23,760,000,000 litres were added to the nation's water usage each week. I think there would have to be a serious conversation about looking into charging.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we've touched on is, can we square this circle that on one hand we're sort of looking at the everything sharing going, this doesn't seem great from our energy water perspective, but people are doing it, they're enjoying it, they're getting benefits from doing it, or otherwise they wouldn't have done it in their own lives. What can we do so that people can still enjoy an everything shower while still being water efficient? I'm struggling with that. I don't know the answer to. What do you think?
What would be an appropriate amount of time? We hear water efficiency messaging over this summer when we've had such a dry summer that said take a couple of minutes off your shower and you can save X litres of water a day. But then what's the starting point? And what would be the sensible amount of time for a shower that we could not be telling people, oh, make sure you're showering in under 4 minutes? Because as Bibhuti said, she tried that and having one song on was not realistic. I think it's maybe there needs to be a figuring out of what is realistic for people, that people don't feel deprived of their indulgent shower, but also of, actually getting the shower done.
What do you think, Bibhuti? How do we have both?
I think we can, but I think it's like we need to actually have, balancing the self-care steps out of the shower, like I mentioned before, like doing the skincare, doing the face mask and the hair mask outside the shower and turning off the tap. And also, like I mentioned, use music or a short 10-minute or a 15-minute podcast as a fun timer, and also avoid staying in too long. And I think it's important to have campaigns that also talk about water, how important water is, and talking from a Gen Z point of view, because we're so much into using social media and everything. I think social media would be a perfect touch point for Gen Z and us to be aware about water. And I think, having said that, I think there are few steps and few swaps that we could do and still get the relaxation of the everything shower without wasting water. And maybe having everything shower once in a while, but not as regularly as you do, maybe once a month, or maybe do it like a treat for yourself as a form of self-care or stuff like that, but not doing it as regularly as possible. Because after doing our Gen Z campaign, I got more aware about the water usage and stuff like that. So I think it's important to have a voice or someone who's talking about, a water company is talking about how important water is, and doing an impactful social media campaigns and stuff like that, because I think that's where we're on.
I think that's because a really good advice in there, Bibhuti, because making it a real special occasion, a treat. It sounds to me a sensible way that you can say, actually, I still want to do this thing, but I'm going to maybe do it less frequent. I suppose, and while you were talking, what also came into my mind was, if you're going to do that thing, could you offset it by making sure all your other showers are like super quick, like really super quick? So you're kind of compensating by actually, doing a quick body wash that is only like literally a couple of minutes, to sort of somehow offset the longer time you spend in your everything shower. Because I think, I think it'd be really counterproductive just to say, nah, no one should ever do that. Because who's going to listen to me for a start? But, that telling somebody you can't do something I don't think really works as a as a tool, you know.
No, it definitely wouldn't. And water companies don't want to be telling anyone how to use their water. That won't land well, and they know that won't land well.
No, absolutely. And Bibhuti, you just mentioned the Gen Z campaign that you basically headed up. Can you tell us just a bit about what was that? Why were you doing it? What did it involve?
So basically we launched our Gen Z campaign, which was our refresh routine campaign back this year in January, but it was just focused on Birmingham. So this was the first time we spoke directly to Gen Z and not just the current bill payers. So we used the most used platforms that Gen Z spend most of their time on. So like on TikTok, Snapchat, Spotify, YouTube, and we even had digital boards. So the campaign focused mainly on 3 pledges. So it was taking a 4-minute shower, turn off the tap when you're brushing your teeth, fill the sink instead of running water when shaving. So the main aim of our campaign was to show like how small and everyday changes can feel good, but we can still save water for the future as well. That was what our campaign was mainly about. And then a call to action was to take pledge, so which we had in our website. And yeah, that was the main aspect of our campaign.
And how did it go? Did it work?
It worked quite well actually, because we had content that was short and authentic, and it was we didn't have any jargon, or it was not like a long lecture or something. And I think it worked with Gen Z because we tend to have, I think, a shorter span when we're going through our feed. So I think the strategy actually worked because we were able to reach about 5 million impressions, and we had around 37,000 clicks. And the top most best performing social media platform was Snapchat, because that's where most of the Gen Z are on. And I think, talking about the big insight, Gen Z care about climate change, but they don't actually connect that to water use. So the main learning would be making a link between personal routines and water security, clear and simple. So yeah, I think it worked quite well because we had short, bite-sized videos and campaigns, and which actually had fun Gen Z theme. So yeah, it actually worked.
It was impressive reach in terms of number of impressions and things. Do you have any feeling for whether it actually led to water savings?
I think we did, but we had a couple of pledges that they took from our website, and the number of impressions and the visitations that we had on our website the amount was also quite good, but we didn't quite track exact real life data from real homes and stuff like that. But looking at the pledges and stuff like that, the Gen Z were taking it. I think it worked as first phase. So yeah.
No, very good. And I know it was a trial done in a very limited geographical area for a very limited time. So as a kind of proof of concept, I think it seemed to me at least to be a really positive step forward. It's about how to do that at scale and in a way that you can properly try and measure the impact. Because obviously we don't provide the service. We can't go and read people's meters. We can't do that, but water companies can. So it does feel like that's a really useful proof of concept. Then water companies can take and then build on. And I've still not got to the most important question yet, which is about your own personal water use. So we ask all our guests what your own personal water use is. My expectation level is through the roof for you two, right? So I hope I'm not going to be disappointed. Shall we start with Bibhuti? Do you know your own personal water use?
Yes, I almost forgot about it yesterday. And then while I was looking at the questions, I remembered, and I just quickly went to our website and I checked. And I think it was 128 liters per day per person. So
that's not bad, below the national average. So yeah, good. Ruth?
I don't have a water meter. I'm talking to my water company about getting a water meter, but there are challenges to having them in flats. So I've just moved house and I'm living somewhere with quite a weak shower now. So I imagine my water has gone down. I would really, really like a water meter because I feel I could do sub 100. The Southern Water, well, I don't know if they're still running the campaign, but they were running a campaign to get people to pledge to under 100 litres a day, and I'd like to do that.
I'm smirking because you basically said I don't know, but then you've kind of doubled down with some big talk at the end about how you're going to be under 100. So, you can't you can't say that and then not expect to be held to account at a later date on this.
Okay, I would say, and I think this would probably feed into shower times, actually. I had really long hair and it's thick like a lion until a couple of weeks ago. And since I've had all my hair cut off, my shower time has dropped dramatically. So, Bibhuti, I don't know if you find the same when you're washing long hair. It does take some time to get shampoo out so you don't end up with flaky bits. So my top tip for saving water has been cut my hair off.
Thank you both very much for joining us. You've been great guests, and we hope that everyone listening had enjoyed our deep dive into everything shower. You can't really dive into shower, I don't think. Obviously we will be holding Ruth to account for her sub 100 performance. And if you'd like to know more about our own Gen Z campaign, CCW Gen Z campaign, check out the website at ccw.org.uk and our social media channels, which is at CCW Voice. And if you have your own thoughts on the Everything Shower, or you want to share your own water saving hacks, then we would absolutely love to hear from you. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time on Waterfall.